current pandemic, we had to wait a little bit to push the product and have in-house demos for you guys to check it out. It's an amazing system. Definitely, I was blown away by the case studies that Brendan presented, what it solves, and how it can improve our daily lives, especially in buildings, in our warehouses, and definitely help you make more money because you can spec this in with any and all of your projects now. So with that, I'll kick it off with to Brendan. Again, thank you for your time today.
Well, super. Thank you, Carlos, and thank you, Errol, for putting on this presentation for us. So I'm going to start a little bit, just to introduce myself on video, and then I'm going to turn off my video because I am working from home in a very poor quality area. So
can we get everybody to mute? It's echoing really bad.
let's see if I can mute everyone. All right. Well, I'll see if I can fix it as we move along here. So to introduce myself, I'm Brandon Reese. I'm the regional sales manager for Wilson Electronics. And we are the pioneer premier cell phone booster manufacturer. So I'm going to turn my video off, see if that kills the echo, and then we'll continue on with the presentation. All right. I think. Are we still having the echo?
Yeah, I think it's coming from somebody else.
Everybody needs to mute themselves. You can't control their mics.
Let me see if I can.
Brendan, you need to mute your speaker on your computer as well.
Yep, that's what I'm looking to see if that's the. Okay, I think we've got everything here. All right. I think we got it fixed there. Does that work?
It's still echoing.
All right. Let's go ahead and move forward then. I apologize for this echo here. Let's see if there's any other thing that I could do on my side. I think I am getting the feedback from my own computer. So is that better there now?
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay. All right. I've turned my other one totally off. And so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to keep this as a pretty high level. The goal is to go through this in about, 35 minutes or so. I would like it to be interactive. If you do have questions, you can please unmute yourself and ask. But I'll finish up at the end, and then we'll have a Q&A as well. So with everybody's various levels of knowledge, I'm going to start with some of the basics. I'm going to keep it kind of high level. I can also follow up with anybody afterwards for more technical details. So to start with, everyone's kind of heard of a DAS system. And DAS is simply distributed antenna system. And there's a lot of different DAS systems you'll hear about. There are three main kind of DAS systems that most people encounter. The one that is, mandatory in most buildings of a certain size is a public safety DAS system. That is primarily, it's mandatory. It's got to be fire rated. It has to be a standalone system. And this is a system for the police and fire and emergency services and their radios. That is one type of, DAS. That's the public safety DAS system. The other kind of DAS is a carrier or an active DAS system. And at a high level, what that is that is working directly with the carrier to bring their service into the building. And the third kind of DAS system is our product, which is a passive DAS system. And with that, we are simply capturing the signal from outside and bringing it inside where you can use it. So I'm going to do a little overview of, Wilson Electronics, and then go into the systems themselves. So Wilson Electronics, we started about 50 years ago on the RF side. We've been in business a long time. We've been doing cell phone boosters about 20 years now. We're the leading manufacturer of cell phone boosters. We have about a 70 to 75% market share. We were kind of some of the very first pioneers in this space. So because of that, we hold about 140 patents, a lot of intellectual property that allows us, huge advantages over, other technologies and other competitors that we have. We're an American manufacturer, American made, American assembled in St. George, Utah, where we have our factory. So everything we have comes from right there. If we place an order and we're out of stuff, we simply make some more the next night or the following night. So we're not dependent on, foreign countries or China to be able to bring in our equipment and parts. That is our main, factory there. We have a RF design and our certification center in Dallas, where we have about 40 to 50 engineers that all they do is work on new technology, patents, and how to make things better. And then we have a corporate office where I'm based out of in Salt Lake City, Utah, where we have our executives, sales, marketing, and that type of staff. We have been, like I said, fortunate as being one of the very first ones. We have very strong relationships with the FCC and with a lot of the carriers. Matter of fact, on Verizon, we are actually one of their preferred partners since 2016. So on big Verizon customers, if their Verizon eFemto sales don't work, we're actually one of their solutions. And we can actually put it on the Verizon bill if needed. So we've got some very strong relationships there. Now, Wilson Electronics is broken up into, we have two different divisions. We have a commercial division, which is under WilsonPro, and that is what we'll cover mostly today. That is our premium commercial brand that has all of our commercial boosters, some of our IoT or M2M boosters, and also some fleet products. On our consumer side, now the commercial is, just sold through distribution through Arrow. So that's nothing you can just go online and purchase. You can't get it on Amazon, or you can't look at pricing anywhere. That's all done through distribution. On the consumer side, that is our WeBoost brand. And this is, direct to customer. We also have dealers. This is our mobile products for your cars, for your homes, and also some carrier stuff we make for Verizon, for Sprint, for AT&T. All of our WeBoost brand you can purchase just direct through WeBoost, through Amazon, through lots of other sources, and through Arrow. But that pricing's out in the market and it's readily accessible. People can research and see what that pricing is. So that's kind of how we break out our business. So why are we even out there? Why are we relevant? The problem that we all face is poor cell phone coverage in buildings. The carriers have got it pretty well figured out that most places outside, you're going to get coverage. But as they've consolidated towers, as they push towards 5G and everything else, they're trying to make those towers most efficient. So they're not as strong as they used to be. They might be adjusting. And once you walk in your building, lots of times you've got no coverage. Some of the actually biggest culprits are how the new buildings are made. All of these new buildings are made with, block materials. They're made with the new low-E windows, made environmentally safe. All of those things impede your cell phone coverage. The very biggest one we see is these new low-E windows that are spec'd in most everywhere, required in some areas, and are just, the latest and greatest that people are installing. The problem with those is people don't realize those low-E windows can block a significant amount of cell phone coverage. The cell phone signal that's blocked is between about 30 and 35 dB of signal. And most people are like, yeah, okay, whatever that is, that's, it's a window, it can't be that bad. To put it in perspective, you're better off standing next to a 10-inch concrete wall than you are that window, which is really amazing because your whole life you've been trained, hey, if you need to get a call, go by the window. Right now we're having these huge buildings that are all windows and they have terrible coverage. The problem is you don't think about that until the building's done. So once that building's done, you put in those last few windows and you have no coverage. Now you have to get a solution. So we have a great simple solution to fix that problem there. We're able to provide cell phone, voice, text, and basic data anywhere in those buildings that you don't have coverage. Very simply, we are simply capturing that signal from the tower. We're bringing it in on a coax connection down into a booster that sits in an IDF closet, on the side of a wall, in a rack. We boost that signal from each carrier and we send that back out into the building onto one or multiple antennas, and that boosts that coverage that was outside to give you coverage in all those dead areas in that building. We are able to provide coverage for all of the carriers. Other solutions you have to pick and choose. Our simple solution has all the carriers, all the sub-carriers as well. So it doesn't matter if someone comes into your building with T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon, they're all going to work. So, what is the opportunity as an end user, as an installer, as someone that, is selling this? This is not industry specific. It's not a, specific industry product. Everybody can use this. Everybody has the problems. You don't have to call to ask if someone has cell phone problems. They all do at some place or another. It's, what are they doing to fix it? And as an installer, if you're already in there doing the security system, doing the AV, the low voltage, or any of the wiring, you're already there in the ceiling. This is a solution you can provide complementary to everything else to really solve a problem that a building has. And it's also a really cool solution to bring up that a lot of people don't know is even going to be a problem until the building's done. For the last, 10 or 15 years, the only way to get cell phone coverage into your building was doing it with the carrier on an active DAS system. And so what a carrier would do is they would come to, I'm going to use Arrow just as an example. Arrow has, bad coverage in their building. So they would go to Verizon. Verizon would say, oh, I see you have 50 corporate lines with us. We will put a system into your building for you for free because we're going to make money off of your 50 corporate lines. As this is morphed and changed over the years, people are not having big corporate accounts anymore. It's bring your own device. And so these carriers have lost their appetite. They're spending all their money on 5G, on competition, that they're no longer doing that, even for some of the largest, Fortune, 50 companies anymore. So now for the first few, 3 to 4 years, 5 years, everybody has to go out on their own to get these new in-building solutions. So a carrier DAS system. So now instead of a carrier just doing that for them, if you want to put a carrier DAS system in, the Arrow office, you've got to do the engineering. You've got to submit it to the carrier that you'd like. The carrier then spends their time looking at the surrounding towers, some inside signal readings, and then they come back and say, okay, Arrow, here's what you will need. It's going to cost you $50,000 for the equipment. You need to provide 1 gig internet circuit, and here's the antennas that you'll need to put in. Once that's all installed and done, there's an extensive commissioning process as well, because as a carrier, they don't want any of those calls leaving that building. They want all the calls from in that building to go out over that internet circuit, directly to them. The problem with this is it's, very expensive, and it takes a long time, anywhere from 9 months to 3 to 4 years on some of the worst ones. And that's just for one carrier. If you want to do a 2, you get to amplify that or multiply that and try to work with the different carriers. But because the carriers are not, they don't have exclusive contracts anymore, they don't have big corporate contracts, this is not high on their list. That's why we see a lot of these taking, a year plus to even get designed. Or worst case, I've seen a hospital that did an entire AT&T DAS system, had it installed for about 1.5 years. We're paying the maintenance, paying the internet circuit, and AT&T didn't give them approval until about 1.5 years after it had been installed. So there's a different solution, and that's where we come in. Is we're able to address all of these issues for a lot of these big companies that was the only solution forever. Now there's a different solution that we can introduce. And a lot of large companies and big companies are starting to recognize that and start to use us. A few that are using WilsonPro, and I kind of narrowed this list down to just some of the ones in the West that I've worked with. There are 3 main reasons why a lot of these companies, and that I hear from different customers, why they choose our solution. The first reason is it is carrier agnostic. We cover all the carriers. You don't have to pick just the one or just the 2. Also, because we've partnered with the FCC, we don't have to have any kind of rebroadcasting agreements or agreements with the carriers. It's already approved, so there's no approval process, nothing we have to do to check with the carriers before install. The second reason people really like it is there is no internet connection needed. You're not providing the bandwidth for those calls. There's no security risk by connecting it back to your network, and there's also no monthly fee for that internet circuit. So there's no internet circuit required. The third reason why people really like Wilson is you don't have to do the entire building. If you just need to do that parking garage, if you just need to do the basement or the west wing or just the executive's office, you can just do those pieces and parts as needed. So it's very scalable to whatever we need. A lot of the companies here on this screen did exactly that. We have done because of the sophistication of our filters and some of those patents that we have, we are picking up just the cell phone signals out of the air. We're not just amplifying all the noise and confusion. We're picking up just those different carriers' bands, boosting them all separately, and kicking them back into the inside. So a lot of these companies, they'll start with one and go, oh, wait, that worked really well. Let's do it for all of our new buildings. So as you see some of these, we're actually the spec as all new sites go in. Adobe, NVIDIA too, that I've worked with recently, that every new building they have, we're the spec instead of a big, active DAS system. There's quite a few hospital chains that have done that. Because we're not amplifying and boosting just all of the noise and everything else, we are able to install these in highly secure, government bunkers that are 5 stories under the ground, or sophisticated operating rooms, or aircraft control towers. All of that we've installed in because there's no interference caused, because we're not boosting noise, we're just boosting those cell phone signals. So very basically, capturing that signal outside, boosting it, and distributing it inside. We're going to be able to amplify that signal by about 20 to 30 times what it was before. Now, part of our partnership with the FCC, and this falls under the FCC Part 20 ruling. For a few years, there's a couple years, and you may have heard this, boosters were actually illegal. So around 2008 to 2010 and 11, people were making these boosters in their garage, and they were so powerful that they would actually knock a carrier's network offline or make them cause a lot of errors, drop calls. So they were actually banned for a couple of years. And then in 2012, with the sponsorship of Verizon, we went to the FCC and said, we can make a booster that fits within your criteria that will never boost enough to impact carrier networks. And we have that approval, and every one of our boosters have that FCC approval. We have to get them all certified before they can be even sold or produced. One of the requirements is they will actually all come as a kit. So we have to sell the booster with some cable or with some cable and antennas. So for example, the top picture there is one of our basic systems. It's our Pro 1100. And for that one SKU or that one item, you get everything in that top picture. It comes with that outside antenna, that Yagi. It comes with a little lightning protector, 2 rolls of coax, the booster, and 1 inside antenna. That all comes in the kit. If you're going to use different antennas, we have a different kit that comes with just the booster and just the cable. So that's how that works there. Now, how does it work? To start with, we are going to have an outside signal reading or an inside. A negative 70 dBm is a good signal. And what that means, if you're around a negative 70, you're going to have great quality voice, great quality data, text, streaming, everything you need. The higher the number, the higher the lower number, the worse the call gets. So if I'm at a negative 70, if I go to a negative 80, that's a worse signal. If I get to like a negative 85, I might start dropping calls occasionally, or my data might jump from LTE or 4G down to a 3G connection. Once I hit, a negative 90, it's going to be spotty. You're probably going to drop down to 3G data. Voice might work sometimes, it'll drop other times. Once you get, 95 and you can go up to 100, 105, you're going to have very spotty coverage or no coverage at all. So our goal is to try to keep that in there at a negative, 70 to negative 80, 85 at the worst. So it's not really magic. It is a whole link budget. It's a math problem for us. So if we look at outside signal, outside on the roof, a negative 57 is probably a pretty common signal. So if we start outside with a negative 57, our little antenna is actually going to give us about 9 dBi gain. So we have a negative 48. We're going to lose some on the cable. So going into our booster, our amplifier, we start with a negative 55. As we boost it, we're going to boost that a full 72 dB. And so coming out of the booster, we're at a positive 17. So that's the number we have to work with. That is also the max that the FCC will allow passive boosters to boost. So there's, no technology or nothing that's legal that allows you to boost more than that on the passive DAS side. From that connection, now we could go and split this out into different areas. So if we use a splitter, we're going to lose some with the cable and with the splitter itself. And then out at the end, so each one of these antennas, we're going to have a positive number. So we're just going to say we had 3 antennas in this location. We'll use the arrow office again. One's in 3 different areas of the office. Each one of these antennas is going to have a positive dB number so that it's going to be able to cover a lot of space. Each one of these antennas at the end will cover between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet, depending on the signal, and also depending on if it's an open room or if we're going through walls and different things like that. So, in this scenario, we'll have, 3 of these low profile dome antennas throughout a building, and each one of those will cover, probably close to 5,000 square feet in an open, office environment. If this is going down a hall or going in between different offices and there's walls that it's shooting through, it might only cover, 3,000 square feet, depending on the wall materials. But that's how it works. So the whole design is based around what that outside signal is and what you need to cover inside and what kind of obstacles there are. The plus with this is you don't have to know how to do all of this. We take care of that for you. So we do all of the professional designs for free. All that we need is that outside signal reading, a floor plan, and then some basic information of, all right, is the wall drywall or is it a 18-inch concrete wall? There's a big difference in how our designs will end up. But we do all of that for you. We take that outside signal reading, match it up with the floor plan, and we'll kick you back something like on the left there that really shows how it lays out. If you need an IB wave, we can do those as well. Or here's an actual design out of, from one of our customers. For example, this system looks like there's, 4 boosters needed. And it shows the layout on the right and then the actual, locations on the design, on the left there. Once you do this, our design engineer will be, sending this out or assisting. You'll also have his information that if you've got a question or concern, you can call him and say, hey, I'm installing system 3 and it looks like there's a new wall here or there's an area that we didn't get covered. Could we add another antenna? He'll look at the math and go, yes, we can. Or, we can, but let's move these 2 a little bit and we can adjust. So we are able to assist, adjust, and help it work. This is, like I said, a fairly simple install because in our boxes, they automatically adjust the gain. They automatically adjust the boosting to the max that it can. So let's say there's a Verizon tower that's very close and the signal's not very poor for Verizon. we might only boost that 25 dB. But AT&T is a terrible signal. We might boost that one the full 70 dB. All that we can, and we'll boost them all independently, pushing toward that max of that plus 17 dB. Now, because this is what we need the outside signal reading. Everybody has their cell phones, and there's actually a couple apps that you can use on your cell phone. There's an Open Signal app that works very well. There's a Cell Network Info Lite that works well, mostly on Android because Apple's very stingy on what they allow, and they don't like people to see how their phones are working. But by taking just a cell phone reading, you're only getting just that carrier, just that phone. So we have a couple different devices. We have some signal meters. What these signal meters do is it picks up the signal from each of those carriers and tells us what that is. So we have a WilsonPro basic model, and it's kind of a manual model. It will pick up the signal from all the different spectrums, all the different bands. And you can just scroll through and then write down the signals. Okay, I've got LTE, I've got 3 700 bands. I'm going to write those down and record those. I'm going to switch 800 megahertz. I've got 2 bands that are being used, 1900 and then 2100. And the basic model works great. We do have a newer updated model that is, twice as expensive. The basic model is between, I want to say $200 and $300. The newer updated model, it is actually that antenna device you see, but also comes with an app that you can put on a connected phone or connected iPad. This is just the more advanced model. The basic one gives you all the same details, but the updated model provides a lot more. This provides you with the tower location, as you can kind of see there, of where the towers are around you. It tells you with which carrier it is, what band they're using, what that signal strength is, and it also gives you the quality. So lots of times you have a tower that's really close, but maybe it's got bad quality. We might aim the antenna outside at a different Verizon tower that has better quality or less noise. This also gives you kind of a live mode as you do like a site walk. It will show you the levels as you go from inside to outside. But the best part about this is it has a project, save feature. So instead of writing down all of those different, signal readings, you simply hit scan. In 2 to 3 minutes, it'll give you this snapshot of all the towers that it's located, all the strength, and you can simply put save. Save this as, Aero corporate office. And I took this on the roof. I could go inside and do another scan. I could go, in the basement, in the parking garage. I can go anywhere on and keep taking these scans, and it saves them to the app, and you can export that. So it just makes it very simple and easy to take those readings, see where the towers are, and you really get live stats from those towers. So moving on to the benefits. Going through some of the benefits, and I'll actually go into some of the boosters. We've talked about, a lot of these benefits of the same reason why people really have, gravitated towards Wilson. We're going to boost all of those 2G, 3G, 4G, and some 5G bands from all the carriers. No internet connection, saves your battery, makes people productive in their workspace, and that's FCC and carrier approved. Why, like I said, why that was big is you could drive down to Aero, pick up one of these boosters, and install it that same day if you'd like, without ever having to connect with a carrier to get approvals from any of them. There is, one request or requirement after everything's installed. You go into any one of the carriers. We have some links for those, and register the booster with any carrier. It doesn't matter, even if it's not the one they're using. And they simply want the serial number and the address, and that's the extent. But none of that has to be done beforehand, so there's no carrier coordination. So we're going to move on to the actual boosters themselves. So on this commercial side, we'll touch briefly on our fleet solutions. So we do make, car and home, but these are made specifically for fleets. We sell thousands of these to police, fire, to delivery, to, Swift, to Walmart, truckers that are over the road. Anybody that needs a connection to that vehicle where there's not, or they're driving through areas with poor coverage. Pretty simple, straightforward. It boosts just the same as a big commercial one, just for your car. It's going to boost that signal about 20 to 30 times. So if you're frequently in an area where there's poor drop calls, we've had school buses put these in just to make sure they keep connectivity with kids and with that, and different things like that. So Amazon, so you can know exactly when your Amazon shipment's 4 stops away, and those important things these days. Another product we have is our IoT or M2M boosters. What's different about these are these are designed to just boost one specific machine. So these are used in remote ATMs, fire security panels. Probably one of the easiest ones to understand is these go a lot into like a red box machine or a Coinstar. You see those little kiosks and they shove them into a grocery store or somewhere where there's not a lot of coverage. These little boosters fit right in line. They're about a little bigger than this deck of cards, and it fits right in line with those antennas to give that, once again, 20 to 30 times more coverage than it did before. We're seeing a lot more fire panels, security panels that have cellular backup or are cellular powered that have to have that coverage. We've seen a big influx, especially with fire panels, where they put that fire panel down in the IDF closet, down in the basement, but it has to have that cellular connection. So if that cellular connection is not there, it alarms. Or if that cellular connection drops during the day, it alarms. So we're seeing a lot of these going into those security panels, those fire panels, to boost those type of anything that needs a cellular connection and you have trouble getting it. Now moving on to our buildings. This is our kind of a basic solution. This booster here will cover 20,000 square feet, more with better coverage. It has a 15 dB, downlink power, which is the max that it's going to output. All of our boosters have our XDR technology. So some of the patents that we have are that if a cell tower is too close or that signal's too hot, all cell boosters are made to shut down because that's the FCC requirement. Our XDR technology will auto attenuate. So if there's your booster's been in your building and all of a sudden Verizon builds a tower half a block away, now that signal is going to be really strong and we might not need to boost it at all or just a little bit. This will never shut off because that power is too strong. It'll say, okay, hey, I'm only going to boost this 5 dB now because that's still going to get me my max. So all of our commercial products have that XDR technology. So you're not going to have to go back and troubleshoot. You're not going to have to go back and reset it. Some of our competitors don't have that. So anytime there's a fluctuation, even if it's at night when a carrier is just testing their network and cranking it up and down, it shuts down that booster and they have to physically restart it. Have somebody unplug it and plug it in. It's so bad. I actually have one integrator before they knew about Wilson. They had to set up a timer so that every night it would restart one of our competitors' boosters. So it'd be reset for the day. But that's something we have. This is a very basic model. This comes as a kit. And like I said, the MSRP on this kit is about $1,600. If you'll notice, this has on the top, it's got one, I'm going to call them inputs and outputs just for ease. Everybody uses donor and server or different. I'm just going to say in and out so that there's no confusion. This has got one input that comes in from the donor and then one output that goes out to an antenna. Each of those output can be split normally 4 times. So you can put a 4-way splitter and have 4 different antennas going off of that single output port. Now, if the signal is very poor, let's say you're starting with a negative 90 outside and we're boosting it, we might only be able to put that out to 2 antennas instead of 4 because there's so low signal outside. Or if it's really, really strong, we can maybe split that to 5 if we needed to. So that's all determined by that outside signal. So that's our basic model for a basic suite, a basic office that is not very large or complicated. Now we're going to move on to our enterprise models, which is our kind of bread and butter or the most popular. Now, as you look at this slide here on the pictures, there's a difference. So the one on the left, you see there's 1 port on one side and there's 3 on the other side. So the one on the left is our Enterprise 1300 model. The one in the middle is a rack model of either one of these. And then the one on the far right is our 4300. I'll explain these a little more in detail as we go. But one of the things I want to point out here is, as you see at the top of the 1300 on the left, there's 1 port on the left side and there's 3 on the right side. It's a little bit different that those 3 are all inputs and there's 1 output on the 4300. So our enterprise has a couple different features that make them new and improved. They're the most powerful boosters on the market right now. They're the rack mount or the wall mount. That's a 2U rack mount. But we're adding those extra donor ports. And why that is it's part of our new multi-tower targeting technology. So lots of times, all your towers aren't in the same direction. And we might need to point them in different directions. With those 3 different inputs, we are able to point to, maybe it's a Verizon tower in one direction, but AT&T's in the opposite direction, and T-Mobile Sprint in a different direction. We were able to take all 3 of those and point them in different directions as needed. If we don't, and they're all just in one direction, you can simply use one and put it in like a common mode. But this gives you that flexibility to make sure you can get all the carriers you need into that building. The other big feature that these new enterprise models have, just on that 1300 and 4300, is our Wilson Cloud. Our Wilson Cloud enables you to have customized email or text alerts if there's a problem. You can monitor your stats. You can see how it's working. You're alerted if there's any issues. You can reset it if you needed to remotely from any web-based device. And you can, if you have multiple locations, you can separate them all out. You can see them all on the same dashboard. And that's what that is. The Enterprise 1300, we talked about just a little bit before, was our newest model. Because it is more powerful, this can cover, I told you before that that 1 output, we can generally split 4 times. With this larger one, with a good signal, we can safely split that 6 times without too much issue. So it's able to cover that much more. Our marketing says it covers up to 40,000 square feet under, optimal conditions. I usually like to say 30,000 square feet just to make sure. But this has those 3 inputs for 3 different donors if needed and 1 output. Our 4300 is our bigger model. This is one that will cover 80 to 100,000 square feet with the single booster. This one has those same 3 inputs, but it has 4 outputs. So there are actually 4 different boosters built into this booster itself. So each one of those outputs has a full 17 dB downlink power available. So off of each of those, that can be split off into multiple antennas. If you need to stack these, we do everything from, we've done a 1 million square foot Michelin plant. Children's Hospital of Orange County was a project, and that was about 1.5 million square feet. I think they have, 15 to 20 of these different devices in the different buildings to cover that area. There's no interference. You could actually put 2 of these antennas right next to each other. They're not going to interfere with each other or with any other devices or Wi-Fi or any other systems. So that is kind of the boosters. I'm going to touch a little bit on 5K. We don't have, or 5G. We don't have, the hours to talk about that, but hitting briefly on 5G. That is the talk of the town and everybody wants to know about it. Will Wilson work in 5G? Yes. Wilson's main goal is to provide voice, text, and basic data in buildings you don't have it. We're going to be able to do that all through 5G, through 6G, through 7G, because we're not trying to give you that 5G data speeds that we can. Now, we are going to be able to do some, but that's not our goal. Our real goal is to provide you that voice, text, and basic data. Now, very high level, 5G is, there's 2 paths. The FCC has not standardized anything on 5G yet. They basically said, carriers, tell us what you're going to do, and then we'll do a specification, say, here's what 5G is. Here's the limits. Here's how it works. There are 2 paths to get to 5G. There's a FR1, and that's basically using all the spectrum from 600 megahertz to about 2200 megahertz. And then, so that's kind of the existing spectrum. And then there's also the new multi-millimeter spectrum. You've seen T-Mobile, they have actually launched first and the largest because they're starting to use a 600 megahertz. A 600 megahertz travels so much farther than the multi-millimeter others are using. So T-Mobile is going to be using like a 600 megahertz for some of theirs. AT&T and Verizon are going to be using like a 3.8 and a 4.9 gigahertz multi-millimeter wave. So as far as, connecting, if you're out in the middle of, nowhere and pick up your cell phone, you might be getting cell phone coverage from a tower that could be 10 to 20 miles away. Let's just say 10 miles away, easy. The 600 megahertz on the T-Mobile 5G is going to be similar, probably a little bit less, but similar. The multi-millimeter wave, that 3.8, 4.9 gigahertz, its coverage is considerably less. You're looking from the tower about 500 feet of coverage. So it's almost like a Wi-Fi access point outside. So for Verizon to launch an area, they've got to come in and have a little micro tower or a mini cell tower every 500 feet, which means you're bringing high-speed fiber to every light pole, sides of trees and buildings to be able to light up an area. And that's just for a single carrier. So that is why the deployment is slower. whereas T-Mobile's able to do it a lot quicker because they have greater coverage. Now, because of the great slowdown there and they've overhung the market so much, all the carriers are starting to use dynamic spectrum sharing. And what that is that's repurposing the frequencies they already have. So with that, they've got, let's say they have some 1900 megahertz they're using for 4G. They might clean some of that off and they're going to use 5G on that megahertz. With that, we are going to be able to boost all of that coverage just the same as we do 4G and LTE. So when we say we're going to cover, some 5G, until that new multi-millimeter wave and they're using dynamic spectrum sharing or DSS, we're going to be able to boost 5G just the same. We are launching a new product that's coming out in July that's going to cover band 71, which is the T-Mobile's 5G. This is going to be sold as kind of an add-in, and it's going to plug right into one of our existing boosters and provide that T-Mobile 5G coverage. And it will work over the existing antennas and existing system that's already there. So just a few points of why. Why would I want to do this? How is it going to help me? And how is it going to make me money? In these days, everyone needs to be more efficient, figure out how to work smarter, and be able to really, have a peace of mind that it's going to work. You don't have to worry about it. Once these are installed, I've came out on some customer sites to view some that have been installed for 10 plus years of systems I didn't even know that we had. There's really nothing that can break. There's nothing that can really change once it's installed. So as an installer, that's great peace of mind that I don't have to go back and support this time and time again. Or even as an end user or building owner, once it's in, it's done. There's no reoccurring costs. There's nothing to have there. It's just in. Now, Wilson has a 3-year warranty on all of our stuff. We have best-in-class design with multiple engineers to do that. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. And we also have free phone support. We've got customer technical support 7 days a week. And we have a very extensive resource library of case studies, of how do we install a WilsonPro? How do you terminate cable? How do you do all of that stuff? So with that, I've talked a lot. I'm going to move on to our Q&A. Do we have any questions of all the stuff that we've gone over?
Hey, excuse me. Hey, everybody, it's Carlos. If you don't have questions now, feel free to reach out to your account execs. They have additional information for you guys. Email them if you want more additional information as far as brochures, specific products. Please let us know. We are more than happy to share that with you guys. I did get a question. Is there training to become certified installers? We want to host a training soon, but until the this pandemic and they relax some of the restrictions that we have, we will work it out. If you're interested, again, reach out to your account executives, or I'll email you guys out later on this afternoon, see if anyone's interested in becoming a certified installer. But for now, those plans are on hold.
Yeah, so we have a certification center in Dallas that we do a certification class each month, and we are starting that, in the 1st of June. However, we will come out and do a certification class, specifically for Arrow and their partners, as soon as we can. As soon as everybody can travel, there to their location, we can do that. Any other questions at this point?
Yes. What is the price for the updated survey tool?
Okay, that new signal meter is our cell link meter. The list price for that is $1,000 for a soft kit case, which comes with the license or the app and the meter in the like a soft camera case, or $1,200 list if you want one that's in a little Pelican type case, a little hard case that can be thrown in the back of the truck and used and abused a little bit more. If you're just doing a single project, the basic one's just fine. If you're going to do more than one project or do other, jobs and tasks, build the meter into the next, quote, because it's invaluable. It's very, very efficient and easy to use. All right. Any other questions?
No, I don't see any more coming in. I think we'll call it. I thank everybody for joining us today. Will a copy of the slides be going out to everyone? We will send out a copy shortly. If you are on the e-blast, I will definitely send out a copy to you guys. But if no one else has questions, thank you so much. Thank you, Brendan, for hosting the webinar, sharing this great info to everybody. I really appreciate it.
No, and that will be great. They'll have, like I said, all of your Arrow contacts will have this presentation if it does not get sent out to you specifically. So just reach out to them.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you guys very much for the time today, and have a wonderful day and be safe.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good day.